What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another live Engadget Podcast stream. I'm Senior Editor Devendra Hardwar. I'm here with our, managing editor, Sherlyn Lowe?
Deputy.
Every week.
Every week I
Deputy.
get a little
Every
jump
week.
up. I love that.
It's more like Mobile Goddess, Sherlyn Lowe,
Yeah,
right? I think that was
Mobile
your
Goddess.
favorite title.
Ding.
That was
I don't know
Reviews
why I'm a
queen.
doorbell, but there we go.
And our podcast producer, Ben Elman. Hello, Ben.
There are things happening in the podcast ecosystem, and we have to talk about it.
There's so many things happening, but thank you all for joining us as usual. We're going to be diving into a bunch of fun stuff later today. There's more Spotify and Joe Rogan stuff, of course. There's Sony buying Bungie, which we can also talk about, like why that is weirdly small. It feels like small news, even though it's a huge deal. So there's all that stuff, but just want to say good morning to everybody joining us here.
Yes.
Hello, Jonathan Anderson.
Hi.
Hello.
Exactly.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. Like Devendra said, Jonathan Anderson. Sorry, I kind of bogart this section of like shouting out to people because I adore saying hi to people. Jiming Chung, but actually, if you're Cantonese, I think Ben was originally right. It's Jiming. But anyway, happy new year to you too. Stefan, dude named Charlie, Wilso, CF542 are here, Gabrielle as well. Albert, look at it's all our friends. We got some different names, but we still got a little tribe going on. I like that.
The Benevolent D says, I've been acquired by Sony.
For how many billions?
Well, yeah, speaking of Sony, okay, where's the podcast connection to Sony? I'm pretty sure there's a studio called 3 Uncanny 4 that was started by one of the original founders of Planet Money that was with Sony. So
that was
yes,
with Sony? Okay.
Podcasts
sure.
have
That's
been
a deep
acquired
cut
by Sony too.
Deep cut, yeah. Are they on like a dead service like Crackle? Crackle was Sony, and now it's who owns Crackle now?
Oh
Some
man,
random company
R.I.P.
owns Crackle.
Yeah. Well, not R.I.P., but you
it's
know,
still around. But I
know.
have no idea who owns Crackle.
I used to love Crackle for a time.
So just so everyone understands, we're going to be recording things a bit out of order, as we frequently do when we're talking to Jess Condit. So Sony Buys Bungie is going to be coming up around 11 a.m. We're going to be talking about Spotify and Joe Rogan. We'll do a quick segment on that. Then we'll talk about other news, Wordle, and everything else before Sony buying Bungie. So if you're here to hear about Sony buying Bungie, stick around. We'll get to that in about, let's say, 45 minutes or a little bit more.
It may also sound confusing because Sony in the audio podcast will be first, so I will have to introduce that as first, and then I'll have to talk about Joe Rogan as if we're starting the show in the middle or something. So just bear with us. This is the joys of audio production.
So before we get started, CF542 asks the question: where does Sony make their money these days? Where are these 3 billions coming from?
So Sony corporate, because I did a whole article about this, but PlayStation in general is making a ton of money for them. So it's actually, it makes sense why they continue to invest in the video game side. We'll talk about all this. Spider-Man, Sony Pictures is a big freaking deal still. So mainly because of Spider-Man.
Okay, so let's get started. So we're going to be doing the intro, then just like a breath, then we're going to Spotify and Joe Rogan.
And some people don't. Yep. If you don't understand what's happening with Spotify, don't worry. We will try to explain all of it and why it is kind of a big deal. It's not just like this one company doing something weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Good to go. Let's go in 3, 2, 1. What's up, Internet? And welcome back to the Engadget Podcast. I'm Senior Editor Devendra Hardwar.
I'm reviews at... I'm Deputy
Editor. See? It's hard because it's like ingrained.
Oh boy. Should I take that again? I'll just do
the... I mean, we can try it, but I'm not going to be the fun police. I'm not going to be the fun police on this.
Wait, you could keep that initial CC part.
Damn. We could, and then, I don't know. We could just take it on.
Do a clean take, Shirley. I think Ben can like edit from me saying CC.
I'm Deputy Editor Sherlyn Lowe.
Are you? I'm confused right now, Sherlyn.
I'm confused too.
Today, folks, we will be talking about a surprisingly big deal. Out of nowhere, Sony announced that it's buying Bungie, the developer of Destiny and the original developer of Halo, which is now a whole Microsoft thing. So that's really confusing. And we'll talk about what that means for the gaming landscape. And also, hey, there's a lot of consolidation going on. What does this all mean? Jessica Condit is going to join us to talk about that. And also afterwards, we're going to be diving into the continued troubles around Joe Rogan that Spotify is facing. So we talked a bit about that last week, but there is more stuff happening. So let's break that down and figure out what's up with Spotify. As always, if you're enjoying the Engadget Podcast, please leave us a review on iTunes, subscribe to us on your podcatcher of choice, and drop us an email at podcast@engadget.com. We typically record live on Thursdays around 10 a.m. Eastern. You can join us on our YouTube stream there. For the chat room, we'll have some Q&A. Sometimes we show off devices. It's a fun time. Okay, let's go. Okay, so I'm...
Okay, yeah, we're talking about
Joe
Rogan
in the middle of the show.
Yeah, let's remember to at least go a little bit from first principle, like $100 million deal, all that.
Okay. So let's move on to our other big story this week, and that is the continued trouble that Spotify is facing with Joe Rogan, although it is more and more confusing. So last week we talked about the fact that Neil Young, the famed rock and roller folk singer, I don't know where you classify him, but I love his music. But Neil Young said that, Spotify, it's really either me or Joe Rogan. And then Neil Young took his music off of Spotify. And what has followed since then is that a bunch of other artists have basically done what Neil Young did. So that includes Joni Mitchell, who's kind of contemporary to him, India Arie, who is more of a 90s artist, David Crosby, Graham Nash, Stephen Stills, a bunch of old, other artists, typically like folks who were big in the 70s and 80s. And to be clear, a lot of folks who probably made their money already, in the music industry, so they have less to lose by leaving streaming. But a lot of those folks are stepping away from Spotify. People are talking more about, people are talking more about Spotify's like their responsibility for hosting somebody like Joe Rogan. And the whole reason for this is that Neil Young specifically was against Joe Rogan's sort of like anti-vax and COVID misinformation that has been a big part of his show forever, even since before Spotify ended up paying Joe Rogan $100 million for exclusive rights to that show. Spotify didn't like buy the show outright. They don't own it, but they own publication rights to it exclusively. So it is kind of a sticky situation there. But yeah, there is just so much going on. Podcasts have also announced that they're taking this seriously. Brene Brown, who hosts a couple of popular shows, which she was essentially acquired by Spotify, she says that she won't be producing any new episodes for the time being. The Spotify-owned podcast, Science Versus, says that they're going to spend their next series of episodes debunking all of Joe Rogan's anti-science claims. So there's a lot of pushback here, some interesting pushback too from people who Spotify owns. Sherlyn, like, what are you hearing all of this? What are you thinking? Does it make you think differently about Spotify as a platform and about what they're doing?
Well, so I just kind of was like gearing up to say that Spotify has also responded by, I'm sure we're getting to that, but I mean, early on when it was just Neil Young, I was just like, sure, I don't listen to Neil Young, a staple in my playlist,
Exactly. I don't think Spotify will drop Joe Rogan for Neil Young. That was never the idea. Yeah.
Right. And like I already had my personal issues with Spotify. The app in some cases just really is awful, even though Spotify as an app has just a lot more features and options, I guess, compared to other music apps, right? Music streaming apps. But I've already been frustrated enough by Spotify's connect feature because it doesn't really work very well with my home speakers. But anyway,
it sounds like you need a better router, Sherlyn. I feel like that's it coming in. I don't know.
I've been looking for an excuse to ditch Spotify, and this might very well be it. I also am somewhat familiar with the Joe Rogan podcast, even if I haven't listened to it ever. I know people who have, and I know people who listen to it for the information or who listen to it because there are certain episodes that don't, come off as very, very misleading or entirely, spreading misinformation. There are episodes that are interviews with prominent scientists, or like I was speaking to my
Mhm.
my chiropractor, who I'm about to out as a Joe Rogan listener.
Oh no, not as they're in the middle of like cracking your spine. You don't want to hear. You don't want to
exactly.
hear that. Yeah,
in the middle of like fixing, but then they listen to the Joe Rogan podcast, and they're like, yeah, well, they, you know, most recently Joe Rogan apparently had a PhD person on there talking about. God, I even forgot. I think I must have tuned out.
He gets. I think the appeal here too is that Joe Rogan is very good at getting, like, he's basically made himself a podcast empire. So he gets big guests. He gets people to come on, people that, hey, I want to hear what those people have to say. But he also gets a lot of people who are noted conspiracy theorists, or people who are like the whole Jordan Peterson thing, and like, people who are just not, the things they're saying are not necessarily true, and especially as we're in the middle of a pandemic, it seems somewhat irresponsible to platform people. In general, Joe Rogan has been like very much on the anti-vax side of things, and there have been studies showing like his listeners, not surprisingly, are often against vaccines as well, and that to me seems like a big public danger in the middle of a pandemic.
What I was going to say is that, like, it's fine to sort of like interview controversial figures. It's fine as long as you're like, as long as when they're saying things that are factually wrong, you have a responsibility to your listener to point that out. I mean, the whole thing, like when I got into radio a long time ago, my like student radio director was just like, you have all these regulations because of the SEC, and also you can't spread mistruths. Like, it's a whole thing, but you know,
that hasn't stopped certain TV networks and stuff too.
At all,
yeah, and you know, right-wing radio is still a big thing, but I don't want to sound like I'm picking on Joe Rogan fans here too. Like, it's, I think back in the day, when he first got started, and for the first couple of years, he seemed like, hey, like this was a guy a lot of people like listening to. And personally, I think it really comes down to dudes do not have enough friends to talk to. I think that's a lot of it. Like, we've talked about parasocial relationships here on podcasts, and we, you know, hey, as we're doing the show, we have regular listeners, we have people who follow what we're saying, like, you follow the drama of it. And with a podcast especially, like, I've done this, a lot of my favorite podcasts are people I followed for over a decade. I like listening to them. They feel like friends when I hear, you know, them talking, and often they're talking about things that I don't have time for in my daily life. For me, it's simpler things like video games or something, or like scientific information. But hearing them talk about it kind of gives me a certain amount of like comfort. Like, oh, my friends say this. That's interesting. That's kind of broadening my horizons. And Joe Rogan's very much a guy who just says, like, and he said this in his statement about what's going on. It's like, I'm just asking questions, man. Just asking questions about what's happening. To make it clear, Spotify kind of addressed what people were saying with, I think, the worst response is that they would put a disclaimer in front of Joe Rogan's shows, which to me seems like a little laughable, because the things people are accusing him of are vaccine misinformation, COVID-19 misinformation, which have a big public health, you know, risk there. That is the strategy social networks took. You know, like when we've talked about Twitter and Facebook and how they handle misinformation, YouTube just last week completely banned Dan Bongino, however you pronounce his last name, but noted like right-wing conspiracy theorists for COVID-19 misinformation. So other platforms where people are producing stuff for them have taken, you know, both the warning labels and the banning action. The Joe Rogan Spotify thing is kind of interesting because Spotify does not own the Joe Rogan podcast, but Spotify owns the exclusive rights to publish the Rogan podcast. So in a sense, like, they are his publisher. They can direct certain things, right? Yeah.
In a way that limits it, right? Like that kind of like, thankfully, it's not being carried on, like, at least this particular podcast of his not being carried on the other platforms because it's exclusive. But
it's exclusive, yeah.
And it's got a huge reach.
That's the entire thing, right? Spotify spent $100 million to get his show. That's one show. They did this for subscriber numbers, right? People, if you want to listen to Joe Rogan, you have to subscribe to Spotify. That is the main growth, like, module for pretty much every, you know, streaming company or whatever. Like, they will do whatever it takes to grow. There is a really good piece by Elizabeth Spears I just want to shout out over at Medium called "Why Can't Spotify Edit Joe Rogan?" And I think it's worth reading because yeah, they are essentially his publisher, you know. And if you're an opinion writer like she is, she writes for other publications. New York Times will not just let you spout lies, even if it's the opinion pages, right? They can let you be a little provocative, but you can't just outright lie. They have the power to like edit your writing, kind of like say you can't say certain things like that. This isn't censorship. This is like what a publisher does. You know, when I write stuff for Engadget, if my editor is like, no, I don't think that's necessarily true, I work with my editor because that's my job. And essentially, Rogan is working for Spotify. You know, it is a weird, sticky situation. What do you think, Sherlyn, about how they've handled this and kind of where this is going? Does this make you think differently about Spotify in general?
I would be interested to see what else they say after this, if this is the end of their so-called measures, because from what I've seen in the news so far, it seems like Spotify's stock is dropping with everything that's happening, which is apparently you hurt any sort of number financially, and big companies, that's when they take notice, right? So now they're probably going to think, well, we got to find a better way to, you know, make people... I guess make people happy is a bad way to say it, but it is if you're talking about just share prices. I don't know. That's the problem, is that they haven't thought about it as an issue beyond just making people happy. They're just like, well, these people aren't pleased with this podcast. We're going to slap a warning label on it.
Here's a warning label. Yeah.
Right. And instead of thinking really cogently about what the problem actually is, because then that's where you start to come up with guidelines and policies across the entire platform, not just this one podcast. It also, to be clear, this should be something that Spotify is thinking, as you said, they're the publisher. It should be thinking about this as a platform-wide issue rather than a one particular podcast issue. This warning label should be slapped on any podcast that's spreading misinformation, but
it should.
I don't
but also
know that.
You should probably be going further. And like, what did Spotify start as? Right? Like, let's go back to the beginning. Spotify, before Spotify, the idea of like just streaming all of your music, you know, people use YouTube a lot to like just play music videos in the background or something. But the idea of having an app that would just pull pretty much any song from anywhere in the cloud, it was founded in Europe. It got big there too. I remember when like a lot of my European friends were like, oh, this cool thing, Spotify, you Americans don't have this. You have to buy stuff on iTunes. And when Spotify launched here, it was super successful. And then it like, to the point where there are other streaming offerings, like there's Apple Music, there's Amazon Prime Music. They're not as good. They're not like, and there's arguments you can make about Apple Music too. Like I think Apple Music as an experience can be pretty great. Tech wise, Apple Music, Tidal, even Amazon Prime offer higher quality and higher bit rates and stuff. So like for the audiophiles and the nerds, those services have better offerings too. There have been like rumors about Spotify going hi-fi, and they haven't fully announced any of that yet. So they basically like helped invent this market. They kind of dominate it. Some would argue like they have a monopoly over it too, because like every artist wants to be on Spotify. But this is the first time we're seeing people just say, hey, we don't want to be associated with you if you can't do anything to maintain your platform. So this seems like something every platform holder has to deal with, right? If you have something on your platform, if you're allowing it, especially if you're paying somebody for it, you have a responsibility there, right?
Yeah. And you're right that it goes beyond just slapping a label on it, because the people who the thing about the label is what it does is it maybe informs the people who weren't informed or who were completely out of the loop on all of this, or who have like have never heard the name. Let's say in this case, the example is Joe Rogan. They've never heard about it before. They're going to see that and maybe get an inkling that like, okay, I might have to take what is being said here with a grain of salt, but it will do nothing for, and I argue that we can do nothing for the people who are just have decided to stick to their guns. We're going to support this podcast no matter what. I don't care what you're saying, etc. There's no really changing the points of views of those people, because we've seen in the last, I want to say 6 years or 5 years, that like people are going to believe what they want to believe, and there no amount of fact checking is going to tell you otherwise. So I feel like it's a difficult position, not just for, again, Spotify, but all platforms, like all podcast platforms.
All these platforms, any media platform for the past decade, all they've been concerned with was just growing, right? You got to beat the competition. You got to get the people that will get eyeballs and get more subscribers. And now all of a sudden it's like the crashing responsibility of, oh no, you built this thing, now you're responsible for this ship of information. If it's good or bad, it has your name on it, it's your platform, now you have to deal with it. I think a lot of companies still don't know how to reckon with that. I want to just read something quickly. Wendy Zuckerman, the host of Science Versus, wrote to the CEO of Spotify. So in her letter, she says, as Science Versus will show in an upcoming episode during Rogan's interview with Dr. Robert Malone, information about the vaccines is repeatedly taken out of context. There's plenty of scientific evidence that contradicts some of the claims in the interview, but it's nowhere to be found in the episode. Rogan's show leaves the audience with a skewed and inaccurate view of the COVID-19 vaccines, and Spotify has done little to address this. I think that's the big crux of it there. A lot of people like, hey, I see people in the chat talking about the marketplace of ideas or something. The marketplace of ideas is people saying, hey, I don't like this, and I'm going to take my stuff and go elsewhere. It's not, Spotify has basically done no censorship here. It is just people reacting to not wanting to be associated with that. So yeah, it's a sticky situation. Hopefully we'll hear more about it in the next few weeks. Sherlyn, like, any other thoughts on this?
A few things. Yeah, I mean, like, ideas aren't facts. So there's that. Also, the
marketplace of ideas.
At the same time,
yeah,
I know. At the same time, there, you know, much as I like, is anyone really truly gonna quit Spotify over this? I think a lot of people have, yes.
Some people,
but
have, yeah.
Some, yes, and for me, it's more like, A, what else is out there? We just talked about Apple Music, YouTube Music, Prime Music. But B, it's also like you said, it's not censorship, it's a publishing platform. So I have the option of just never listening to this particular show, which I have done for the last however many years it's been on, and I will continue to do. So I don't know. It's like, we'll see what Spotify says. I guess for now, I guess out of convenience, I'm going to hold on for a little bit more to see how Spotify responds. But if Spotify doesn't do a good job, I guess it might be time to think about giving my money to someone else.
Yeah. Look at your other options, and maybe we will talk about this. Like, what should your next streaming service be? Or just, hey, let's line up everybody here, because I think a lot of people subscribe to Spotify by default. Maybe they don't know the offerings there. If you have AirPods or the fancy Apple headphones,
HomePod, AirPod Max,
AirPods Max, which nobody owns. Those things don't exist, right? Like, I never hear about them. But if you have AirPods or the new Beats Pro and whatever, you can use Apple's spatial reality music as well. So like Dolby Digital stuff, you get some really good surround sound. So that is, that's an option. Tidal has been launched as like an artist focused service. So the idea is that they give more money back to artists. And I think some data we've seen has shown that they also offer higher quality music. Also Amazon Prime does that too, and Apple does that. So they all offer lossless quality music. Some of them even offer like high res, like 48 kilohertz, much higher bit rates and higher levels of quality than people would get over Bluetooth. But they all offer those things too. Spotify doesn't. Spotify has just been kind of like, there from the beginning. So maybe we'll dive into that. Let us know what your ideal, your favorite music streaming service is now too. Maybe you just built a Plex box and just put all those MP3s somewhere and you don't have to deal with any of this mess. Tell us what you prefer. Podcast@engadget.com. Okay, I'll move on. Let's move on to some other news, and I'm going to throw this one to you, Sherlyn, because I feel like you probably have feelings about this. You've played Wordle more than I have at this point.
So this week, the devastating news, I don't know, I'm overselling this. To me, it was just not great news. But the New York Times announced it's bought Wordle, the game that, hey, if you're not playing, don't worry about it. It's a word game based on the game creator's last name, and it's basically a combination of his last name and the word. So it's a fun little game. A lot of us have been playing it. If you've seen the little green and yellow and gray boxes pop up on your social media timelines, that's the game we're referring to. And the New York Times has bought it, and the New York Times has said, that game, Wordle as a game, has a new word every day. You can't play more than once a day. The New York Times has sort of said it will continue this model for now. It won't be putting it behind a paywall. It won't be, forcing, archives of the game to go live somewhere for a fee. If they do, maybe that's the one thing that might be a silver lining out of all this, because for now, Wordle, the game, is a once a day, a free to play, and there's no way to kind of like access the archives type of game.
And it's just a website too, which I think is
it's
really
just a website. It's so light. It's really well written as a game. As the front end is great because there's a keyboard on the screen, and it's like it will highlight the hints and tell you what letters are there.
It gives you the rules like straight up. And then within a couple games, you like learn it, right? So
it's a straightforward little thing.
How deep are you in your Wordle fandom at this point, Sherlyn?
I think my streak is something like 30. Like I have never lost a Wordle, so I've guessed all of them within 6 tries so far. My worst score was in 6 tries. I got the one that started with PRO. I think the word was proxy, and I guessed prods, prong, probes. Like I just guessed all kinds of PRO words before I got to proxy, because of course X and Y are 2 of the least common letters in the alphabet, and I didn't guess it. Anyway, I'm pretty deep in. How about you, Devendra?
I'm not. And I've learned that I am very bad at word games. So there is something about this and crosswords in general too, where my brain is just very bad at processing that sort of pattern recognition. So, I've played every couple days. I try to play a Wordle. I'm like, I just don't want to, I literally don't want to spend the time engaging on this, mainly because I have so much other stuff I have to do as well. So I'd never have the time to sit down and focus on it. But it's not fun for me. I know people love word games. So more power to you. I think what's really interesting here is that this is like a pure organic success story here too, right? The creative Wordle, Josh Wordle, made this thing. He himself was inspired by some of the New York Times own little word games. So he made this thing, which now has
Spelling Bee was great.
Spelling Bee is good. I like Spelling Bee. But now it has tens of millions of users, and he's able to sell this cute little web app for not the Time says in the low 7 figures. So that's pretty good.
That's a lot of money for a little game that he made for his partner.
Pretty good.
I do want to say that, like, you brought up the Times' other word games. This is very much in the style of the Times' model, which is, again, 1 game a day. You get access to a free puzzle, like the crossword mini or the spelling bee of the day. So the way I see it is, I think the New York Times is going to sort of do the same sort of approach to Wordle, maybe incorporate it into the New York Times crossword app. I hope it still remains as a website, because that way no one has to install a whole other app to play it. Everyone can play it, and it's fun. The other thing that's interesting out of all of this is all the Wordle clones that have come up, Devendra. Have you heard of them?
I mean, I've heard of some of them. Like,
what's your favorite?
I think Gary Whitta, the writer and former game journalist, I think he created Loodle, which is the one that's just about sex words. Just
nice.
Really lewd words and helping you learn new terms. And I hear people are learning all sorts of things about it. But hey, those remixes are fun. The things that aren't fun are the people that just made apps that copied Wordle and started selling them and made money. It's not good.
Okay, so here's a personal story for y'all. So my cousin saw all my I refrained from posting my Wordle scores because I don't want to show off how good I am. No, I'm kidding.
That is the entire point of this game, is to show everybody what you've done. So
or how bad if you were.
Rarely do people post those.
I only show my 2 of 6, but every time I have a 2 out of 6, I post it because I'm so shocked at myself. So my cousin has seen it, and he reached out to me the other day, and he was like, okay, fine, you've got me converted. And he showed me a screenshot of him playing faux Wordle, a version of Wordle. I was like, bro, you got the wrong one. I was like, no, bro, that's a clone. Don't support them.
I've heard this from a lot of people. They end up playing the wrong game too, because how do you start playing Wordle? You have to go to Google and type Wordle and hope you spell it correctly and hope you hit the right thing. It is very unintuitive. It never even got a domain, I think, right?
No, it's just powerlanguage.co.uk.
Some random domain. Amazing. Yeah.
But so that's sad, and I guess I don't know if it'll be better if the New York Times just rebrands it for itself. I don't think so. But the Wordle app clones are bad. The variants of it, those are interesting. Yesterday, in case you were unaware, apparently a version called Taylordle dropped. It's all Taylor Swift. Swifties who Wordle. And it's a Taylor Swift version. It's Wordle Taylor Swift's version, in case you get the joke. But if you don't, it's okay. It's not a good joke. But yeah, I love this whole development. I also love that all the different clones are also based on this guy's last name. So like he's just kind of famous now because they all based it on the name, their original name, which was all based on his last name to begin with. So hey, good for this. This is like a charming little story of a person that didn't set out to like win hearts or to influence people. He just sought to make a nice game, and something good just spoke for itself.
People like games. There's like a cute little like viral aspect to this. I think the dark side of this is just that the New York Times has way too much money, and they can just like they are now like the dark lord of media and just like fun thing. Like they're scooping up everything at this point.
Also,
so
the fact that they were able to spend like a 7-figure sum on this game and then, you know, not give the people that the union were asking for like basic raises, it was just like kind of appalling.
The way they treated the Wirecutter union and the New York Times tech workers union, like those are two separate things, and both times the company has not been great.
It's like pay the people that work for you. I mean, sure, buy this thing. It's just a lot of focus on return on investment and very little on the human investment and human valuing your human resources. So,
talking about corporate investments and whatnot, you wanted to quickly talk about some things from Alphabet and Apple, Sherlyn?
Yes. So really quickly, these last 2 weeks have also been heavy earnings season for companies in tech. And if you watch your own portfolio like I do sometimes, it has been a very depressing few weeks. But big companies have had big results. For example, Apple broke all kinds of records. It broke its revenue record. It broke its iPhone, Mac, and wearables records, revenue records, which means, and despite global supply constraints. So good job, Apple, I guess, for managing your supply. I was more interested to see that in Alphabet's earnings, it had managed to sell more Pixels than ever before. Pixels just had the best quarter ever. Good for them.
They're getting cheaper, right? They're cheaper. They're better. They're more capable.
They've always been sort of around the same price, I want to say, but they're finally like good. The Pixel 6, we all really liked it. It's not boring like the Pixel 5 or problematic like the Pixel 4.
It sounds like it's plenty problematic. There have been some software
it has its issues. Yes. I main a Pixel 6 Pro right now, and like every day it's just like, would you stop gaslighting me sometimes?
Would you stop having issues? I was on Twit a couple weeks ago, and people were talking about like their issues with Pixel 6, and it's a shame because that seems like the phone that should have been like, hey, we've made an iPhone level perfect marriage between Google software and Google hardware and all this beautiful stuff, and no, it turned out.
Yeah, I know. So, but good job. And I guess congratulate. I also want to say, I believe the A series contributes to this number. So the Pixel 4a, the 5a, those phones contribute to this number as well. And I'm not surprised, right? Those are like some of the best mid-range or lower cost phones out there. And Google has finally found its niche. So that was kind of all I wanted to say about earnings season. And that I hope my investment portfolio, which, by the way, disclaimer, I only trade in funds because it's kind of unethical for me to buy individual stocks. So there you go.
There's nothing stopping journalists from doing that, apparently, too. So as I've learned. So yeah, there
do it. If you do it, disclaim it. That's all I'm saying. Just disclaim it, and
it's a real
don't be unethical. Yeah.
I think the thing with Pixel too is like at this point, people are like general consumers associate Pixel with Google. So your choice to which phone do you buy really comes down to, do I buy the Samsung? Do I buy the Google? Right? Everything else, all the other Android phones kind of don't matter anymore unless you're a super geek.
Well, right. The super like
they'll go OnePlus, they'll go whatever.
People, exactly. We'll look at OnePlus as an option. And also in Asia and in non-American countries, then there's a lot more options. There's people who like, I see a lot of people buying Xiaomi or Oppo phones as well. It's just so happens that in the US, there's really Samsung, Google, and maybe OnePlus, and that's pretty much it.
I guess happy for Google, I guess. Like I was there following the Nexus phones. I was there following like all these like little these like the homegrown hardware that Google tried to do. I still have a Nexus 4 somewhere with the glass back and whatnot. So hey, they've tried for so long. It's been over 10 years. I'm glad they found some sort of success here, and we'll keep an eye on it. Sherlyn, like, what is new in Pixeldom? Like, what are you looking forward to this year?
The rumored Pixel Watch, I'm pretty sure it's coming out this year.
Yeah.
I'm almost 100% sure. But I wouldn't bet copious amounts of money on it. But yeah, no, that's what I'm looking forward to seeing this year. Even though I don't actually have any high hopes for it, I still expect the first gen Pixel Watch to kind of be a mess because I temper my expectations, and B, like, track record's not great for Android or any company.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. For this industry in general. But that's what I'm looking forward to, because I don't know what to expect with the phones anymore. I feel like they did a lot with the Pixel 6. I feel like they should really focus on smoothing that out and making that a more stable device and software for everyone. It's too early to say. I don't know. I don't want to start thinking about October right now.
Don't think about October. I do wonder, like, Google's such a big company. Like, why do you have these software issues? Like, what is the deal here? Like, you guys should be ironing this out. And every time these sorts of things happen, I remember like how bad Google is at consumer products. So I have a Nest device right now that just always loses its wireless. Always. I don't know why. There's no fixes for it. The Google Home app is a
similar
joke.
Yeah.
The Google Home app is one of the worst design things I've ever encountered. So it's those things that make me just like really shout. Yeah.
I get that. I mean, I have Nest speakers that are just awful at staying synced to each other or my Wi-Fi apparently. And then also there's like the I don't hate the Home app. I actually think it's fine. Maybe because I've just been so used to it, right?
You're used to the pain, but yeah, the temper, like changing your thermostat and stuff. There are certain things where even on iOS, it's like, oh, this is a button. This doesn't look like a button. This looks like a line of text that you made. It's those things that really.
I'm so glad to see David Herrera in our live chat is agreeing with us that their Nest device always loses their wireless connection. Now I don't know exactly which device you're talking about, David, but for me it's the Nest audio speakers, and I flagged this issue to Google multiple times, and they're like, they troubleshoot. For me, right? They went to the extent of troubleshooting a lot, and they still were like, at the end of the day, were like, "Oh yeah, it sounds like you have a Wi-Fi issue on your end," which you did just say to me, like, "I need a new router."
You probably
but I'm also
need a router, but still, yeah,
exactly. Like, I'm like, no, but if my Alexa can, if my Echo can stay connected, baby, don't respond.
It's okay. It's okay. Just say cancel.
Cancel.
But it's the same thing with my Nest thermostat. Like, I have two in my house for upstairs and downstairs. But usually at one point of the day, one of them will lose wireless. My parents also bought two for their home. Almost always lost wireless. I noticed, like,
so it's not just me.
It's not just you, but it's like something weird, because then I did an AT&T update and they updated my like gigabit gateway, and that new router is more stable with the Nest. But clearly it's the way the Nest like works with some hardware, and Google's hasn't figured this stuff out. Anyway, we will follow along with all this, and
we will.
I think Google's continued like inability to create like a seamless consumer experience, I think, is hilarious. So it's just like a comedy of errors at this point.
I'm gonna try to figure out what's going on there. Yeah, I'm gonna try to figure out what's wrong.
What's wrong? What's wrong with Google?
What's up, fam? Why can't you get your act together? Let me talk to you about therapy right now.
Yeah, just sit down, flip a chair around, and sit on it. Like, let's jam about consumer products. Let's move on to what we're working on.
Yes,
the HP Spectre X360/16. This is the bigger, newer HP Spectre. That is their like premium line.
So pretty.
It's very pretty. It's an X360, so that means it's a convertible. You can flip the screen all the way around. I am reviewing that right now, and review should be up. I'm going to be out next week, but the review should be up like right after that. It's cool. I like HP premium laptops. I think we have some issues with their like basic stuff, but their premium stuff, the keyboard feels great, the trackpad is great, and I love like they just are very good at making an edge-to-edge screen now. So it's a really nice device. I just wish they couldn't send us the 12th gen Intel chips to review. So I know that's going to be shipping this year on some of these models. I just wish we could have actually seen that. But yeah, I wish you could play with this one, Sherlyn.
I love HP's Spectre and Spectre X360 line. I just question for you, Devendra: is it rare to get a 16-inch convertible that flips all the way around?
I think that's one reason why I picked this one up, is because so instead of having a 50-inch laptop, they have like shaved the bezels down. They've been able to cram in bigger displays. So I think this takes the place of a 50-inch convertible. And as a tablet, it is definitely way too big. I would
Right.
probably never do that. But, to have a screen that you can flip around and like in bed, just sit and watch video with it, like either in tent formation or like you flip it around and like put
Right.
the keyboard on the bottom and then have
Mhm.
the screen facing you like that. That's kind of nice. And it's a nice big
Okay.
screen. So it's like you're sitting in bed with like, almost like a large TV in front of your face. That's kind of nice. And it's a beautiful screen too. So
Nice.
it is a weird thing to have such a big convertible.
Right. I know. It's kind of it's like it's just a strange concept to me. But anyhow, I while you're out next week, I will be taking over the podcast.
Oh no.
I will run this show. No, I don't know what voice that was, my new Marvel villain voice. But I will be working on Samsung, already doing a lot of prep. I'm also working on that mysterious thing that I talked about that some people ask me about privately afterwards. I promise you guys it will be worth the wait. It is a ride. It is a whole thing. And then next week is Samsung. We will be having a live stream of Samsung's event here on the Engadget YouTube channel. If you're just listening to the podcast, mark your calendars for Wednesday, February 9th at about 9:30 or 9:40 a.m. Eastern is when we'll go live on the Engadget YouTube channel. We'll stick around, chit chat like we do on the morning broadcast for the podcast. And then Thursday I'll also be here with a guest co-host. We're gonna keep it a secret mystery for now. Will we see the return of some beloved Engadget members? We don't know.
It's actually a small cast, so you can take a pretty wild guest. Yeah.
It may or may not be from Engadget. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe like Jonathan Anderson in our live chat says, I'm just gonna do all the different voices on my solo run as the Engadget podcast host next week. Who knows? Maybe I'll have a mental breakdown. You'll see. But that's what I'm working on.
Okay. Let's move on to our pop culture picks of the week. And Sherlyn, you always have a surprise for us. So what do you have to talk about this week?
I'm pretty sure you've heard of this one and you've even probably watched it and loved it. This is Amazon Prime Video's Electric Dreams. Do you like it? Have you seen it?
I have not seen this one, honestly, because I have not heard good things about it. But tell me, what do you like?
All right, I like it a lot. It's basically a different version of Black Mirror. It's it's an anthology. It's standalone episodes, each telling a story adapted from one of Philip K. Dick's short stories. A whole bunch of them, and they're all produced nicely, well acted. There's some huge names in the series. You've got Bryan Cranston, you've got Terrence Howard. What was his? Oh crap! I keep forgetting this guy's name. Steve Buscemi. Thank you. In my head.
Steve Buscemi. Yeah.
I can't remember offhand who else. Oh, what's his name? Rob Stark. Richard Madden is also in it. I almost went Rob Stark. And then his Eternals name, which I also can't remember right now. Just lots of great talent involved in this. And I don't know, the Rotten Tomatoes rating is like 75-76%, so it's actually pretty good for something like that. And it gives me Black Mirror vibes. It gives me great science fiction vibes. I love it, and I actually have been rationing episodes to watch because of how much I like it. Like, I know that every episode is actually great. I've seen 8 out of 10 right now. 8 out of 10 episodes now. I've been saving the last 2 to just kind of have a slow burn weekend to watch, and I enjoy it. It's good sci-fi.
Cool. I'm glad you're digging it. I want to shout out a couple of things too. First is The After Party, which is the new Apple TV Plus show that is a ton of fun. I love this show so much. It is created by Christopher Miller. Half of the like directing duo, Lord and Miller. They did the 21 Jump Street reboot, which I think is an incredible comedy. They did the Lego movie. They like anything these guys touch is basically genius because they're just some of the funniest and like smartest, most creative people around. They're also like, they produced Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse as well. Like that, Mitchell's and the Machines, also producers there. This is a murder mystery show that is it is basically like a comedy. Like it is stars Tiffany Haddish as a detective who stumbles into this party where a famous, I don't know, pop star played by Dave Franco, his name is Xavier, has died. And all the people at the party are suspects. So it's like a good little clue-like murder mystery. But the really fun part is that every episode or everybody's story takes the form of a different movie genre. Because Tiffany Haddish's character is like, you got to tell me your mind movie, about your perspective. It's a little Rashomon. But that part of it is really fun. The cast is incredible, includes like Sam Richardson, Ben Schwartz, Alana Glazer, other people I love, Ike Barinholtz, Jamie Demetrio, who is somebody, he's from that HBO show Stath Lets Flats, which is this like cute, quirky, like weird UK show. But there's just like, it's a good amount of talent here. John Early from Search Party, which just wrapped up. That's another show, by the way. If you like Search Party, check out the After Party. And at some point I'll talk about like the wild ass season, the final season of Search Party. I think you'd enjoy that, Sherlyn. Okay. Yeah, I'll talk about that. But I think the After Party is a lot of fun. It's really, really funny. Love the cast and love this like concept of going over different genres. They do it in a really fun and interesting way. So check it out if you have Apple TV Plus. Also, just want to shout out, warn you not to watch the movie Moonfall, which is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my life. Just pure stupidity. But hey, I do miss the days when we had bad movies that we could watch with friends, get some drinks, watch a really terrible movie, like a B movie with people, and just like really enjoy that on that level. Moonfall may be worth it. But it's a movie about the moon falling to Earth, people. Like the moon
I'm there.
Falling.
Give me an apocalypse anytime. Yeah.
Moonfall. The moon fall. Okay. It is hilarious, and it's also like it is like a pastiche of every Roland Emmerich movie. So there's a lot of Independence Day in here. There's a lot of Day After Tomorrow. There's a lot of like large scale destruction. Yeah.
Are they deliberately trying to be bad in the vein of Don't Look Up or like?
I don't think Don't Look Up was trying. Yeah, like Don't Look Up was trying to go for a specific vibe. Right, but yeah, this is another like, hey, the world is ending. What do we do about it? But this is the kind of movie that Don't Look Up was also like parodying. Like Don't Look Up was making fun of movies like this. So
yeah,
it is.
Have you seen Don't Look Up?
I've seen.
I loved it.
I thought we talked about it here, but yeah, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. There's a lot of like, I wish it was funnier. I wish it was sharper.
True.
I think the ending hits pretty hard, especially right now. But man, this movie is just like, you put all of Roland Emmerich's movies, Independence Day, Day After Tomorrow, 2012, even Stargate.
All my favorite bad movies.
Yeah, all your favorite bad movies.
Watch this one.
Even Stargate, like he's blend it all up, and you get like the result of like, you don't get actual characters, you get character archetypes that all these actors fall into. So Patrick Wilson plays the heroic astronaut who has to save the Earth by traveling into the moon. Halle Berry plays his tough talking colleague who is helpful in some way. Speaking of Game of Thrones, John Bradley, the guy who played what's his face, Samuel Tarly from Game of Thrones, is like the nerd, the science geek who's in this. This movie's ridiculous. Do not see it in theaters, but maybe when it's streaming at home and you can like enjoy it from the comfort of your couch without spending a ton of money, it may be worth a watch. I'm trying to gather energy to write a review of this for Engadget because I just hate so much of this movie. So there's that. Avoid Moonfall, but maybe you would have fun with how bad it is. So there's that. I think you can wrap it up, Julian.
All right.
Actually, are we going to wait? Let's wait for Jess, and then we'll wrap it up after Jess.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up after. Yeah, we'll wrap it up after Jess because otherwise it gets confusing. So, Wilso in the chat just asked, Devindra, have you seen Melancholia? Is Moonfall better than this?
No, Moonfall's not better than Melancholia. Melancholia is I'm not a big that's Von Trier, right?
Yep.
I'm not a big Von Trier fan, but that was pretty good. That was pretty solid. Like Melancholia and Don't Look Up are a good pairing in terms of like disaster movies and people reacting to it.
Really?
Moonfall is not. Moonfall is Big Moon Fall. Big Moon Fall. Earth go boom.
Love that.
People die.
Yeah, I'm going backwards. I want to say shout out to Mark Dell. I was just thinking this morning, I was like, we need to send a search party out for Mark Dell because we haven't seen Mark Dell in a long time. So I'm glad you were able to catch part of it today. But apparently the reason that you weren't able to sort of join us the last few weeks, I guess, is because you got a promotion, which is good news. Don't worry about us.
Congratulations on the promotion, but also boo, less free time while at work.
Yeah, but we're happy for you as long as you're, happy as well. And then also we saw a lot of our regulars have comments and everything. I just want to do another quick roll call shout out. Marley loves film. Hi. Wilso also is here. Hi. Albert says, do not slander Day After Tomorrow, Devendra. I agree. JKG, come on.
Yeah, there was also that article about JKG, so I don't know.
No.
But that was the movie where he was running from frost.
Yes,
as I recall, deep frost.
No, the science is not good. Don't ask me about the science in this one.
The moon appears over the horizon, and people have to run from the moon.
Does it roll after them like a giant?
The gravitational effects of the moon is lifting people off of Earth, and I don't think that's the way it works.
Oh my god, like a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah, well, yeah, and as the moon is like rolling on the horizon, you just hear da 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 katamari dama.
That would be great. No, as the moon is rolling, things fly up off the ground because it has such a strong gravitational effect. I don't think that's true. I need to vet some of this. It's very dumb. This movie is so dumb.
Hi to the D-Man, who's also one of our regulars and is here. And Cecil Libre, I think they said hi, and then the message is now retracted. So if you didn't mean to say hi, I'm sorry. But if you did mean to say hi, hi. There's also Leonard Herrera. I've personally not seen this name before. I'm not sure, but hey, thanks for joining us. And then Bryant Mitchell says that they rely on Engadget reviews, or not rely, but you refer to Engadget reviews to help you decide before you buy gadgets, which I appreciate. Thank you for the review, looking at the reviews that we do. We put in a lot of work. I don't know why I'm talking like this suddenly. And we had a lot of tough conversation or interesting conversation earlier in the chat that I don't know that we need to revisit. But if you have any thoughts, we're on Twitter and email if you want to send them over.
Yep.
Yeah, send us Michael more email at podcast@engadget.com.
Oh, hell yeah.
More email is good.
We like emails. Michael Coley said that the Moonfall sounds like it's on the level as The Core, which is a masterpiece of a bad movie. I
think it's more. I think it's too boring. Is the thing. Like my Moonfall is very, very boring until the moon starts falling and destroying things, and even then, like I don't know. I wish these things had more energy to them.
My question is Chris Pratt in this movie? And if he isn't, why isn't he? Because this is
very much a Chris Pratt role. This is very much the Tomorrow War. The Tomorrow War is
Did you not enjoy Passengers?
Oh God. The Tomorrow War, like this movie is on the level of stupidity of the Tomorrow War. At least that one I think has some action in it and stuff. Like there's some stuff happening. That movie doesn't make logical sense, and neither does Moonfall. So it is on that level of bad.
I thought Tomorrow War was at least interesting. But you were saying that Moonfall's not even interesting. So I don't know.
I don't think it's at least interesting, but Tomorrow War. Our solution for the future war is to kidnap people from the past, unprepared, wearing their casual civilian clothes, to throw them at aliens.
Literally cannon fodder.
Just drop them from the sky.
And they all die when they arrive. Yeah, they didn't have a chance at all. I guess
that movie's so dumb. But anyway.
No, my favorite was when they screamed. Oh man, when Chris Pratt screams "fuck you" at the monster and just kicks them off a cliff, and I'm like, okay, that's okay.
I think he was trying for his welcome to Earth moment from Will Smith in Independence Day, and you can't top it. It's hard to top it. So, do you think we can stomach talking about Joe Rogan for a second more?
Sure.
If you want. I also saw somebody play the Halo trailer, so that was fun. I should.
Oh yes. The show. Yeah. So the last thing that I have to say about Joe Rogan is literally just reading a meme. I think I originally saw this on what looks like, it was like a screenshot from 4chan or something, but it reads like this: Joe Rogan is like some warlord that took an interest in intellectual things, and his show is basically him bringing on slightly nervous scholars and magicians to come before him and explain how the world works.
Yes.
Glasses man, you explain to Joe why sky big and how tree grow. But he will also believe almost anything you tell him. And only recently, in the past few years, does he clap back like, Tiny Hat Man says otherwise. Do you lie to Joe? Tiny Hat Man says fat is not bad for you. Sugar is the enemy. So which is the truth? Joe thinks you are wrong. And people just nervously go, okay, yeah, I guess so. Joe spent many moons on horseback training with bow and sword, but Joe also wondered why skyfire rise from the mountains every morning. You will explain this to Joe.
Yeah.
It's basically...
There's that. I mean, listen, his podcast has had a long history of like misogyny and racism and stuff like that too. Like he's hardcore libertarian. So yeah. There are issues. This is just the latest one.
The thing that I have to say about that is that when you have 11 million listeners, the 11 million listeners and your effect on those people becomes a responsibility. It becomes a responsibility to, okay, if you want to have lots of different people with lots of different viewpoints on your show, you need to accurately weight the amount or what those people are saying. You need to serve as the counterbalance to them. If you are not properly serving as a counterbalance to them, you are just giving them a platform and laughing at what they're saying and asking if they've ever done DMT.
He also is fully on their side too. So it's not he's not a combative interviewer or anything. Should have brought up the Halo trailer for you in the chat.
Yeah, I think Julio brought it up. Yeah.
It looks real bad. It looks like a CBS. It looks like a CBS show, but isn't who's playing Master Chief?
There were some people who were saying that they were disappointed in the fact that Master Chief has a different voice. I saw lots of Reddit comments about that. The general idea that people responded with is that the current iconic voice of Master Chief is, I think, 71 or 72 now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you don't want to tie yourself to a voice actor who is...
You can't do that.
On a worse end of actuary tables.
It is funny, like talking about video game voice actors and how we tie to them. Like for me, Michael Ironside always tied to Splinter Cell. That Sam Fisher voice.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh man, so good. But also,
when is the first Splinter Cell getting a remaster? Good God. I know. I need a remastered first Splinter Cell game at least.
And to talk about Splinter Cell, we have Jess Condit. So hello, Jess, coming on. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for toughing it out and joining us during this. Let me. Yeah, that's okay.
While we wait for Jess to be ready, Drew, I think it was Drew of Karmoka had a question about the S21 FE, the Galaxy S21 FE, and our review of that did just go up, I believe yesterday. Yay. Yeah, it was Sam Rutherford's first review for Engadget. It was great. And the main takeaway, and I fully agree with him on this, is that wait a second. Like wait a little bit. Like next week they're unveiling probably 3 new phones. We probably at about the same price.
Stop.
Just hold on. Just wait. And then make your decision. After we know all the information and you know what you want, and maybe the S21 FE's price changes after they announce new phones, which is likely the case, then decide. Drew, you've got a week.
Just wait. Just wait.
Yeah, a week. Yeah.
Unless your phone explodes and you need to buy a new one immediately. Just wait.
Yeah.
But always pays to wait.
Just a week more.
Just a week more. Just a week. Let me pull up this Bungie Wikipedia.
Yeah. All right. I believe we're ready to talk with Jess about Sony buying Bungie, the state of gaming in general.
Yeah, this situation with Bungie feels to me like, in StarCraft where there are some times when people will completely switch bases. Like your base will get overrun and then you'll send an attacking force to overrun their base. And somehow you just completely switch bases and you need to refigure everything. How did Sony end up buying this thing that was so iconically Microsoft?
You're talking about a world before MOBA's been does not compute anymore.
Oh God! Yeah, no, what? Yeah. All of a sudden, I'm the boomer.
Yeah. Okay. Let us get us.
Okay,
into
so Jess, are you recording? Are you set up to record?
Please.
Yeah, no, it's good that I asked them. Hey, your nose is running. That's fine.
It's all good. And make sure you're getting your good mic. in your recording.
Yes. Make sure like.
Well, I have it. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, do like a little gentle tap of your mic. Make
Mhm.
sure that that's what's showing up on the
I'm hearing that
thing.
Okay.
New GarageBand. Okay. All right. Yep, it's Blue Snowball. Hopefully you can't hear that.
Oh,
there's some of it, but you know, we'll make do.
Yeah.
It's certainly better than I think your last one. Your first mic.
Dude, I'm trying.
Are we gonna clap?
Like
yeah, we're gonna clap in a second.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay, so are you recording, Jess?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So we're going to count down from 3. We're going to clap, and then we're going to do some, like, maybe 5 or 7 seconds of silence. Chat, if you want to clap along with us, that's always fun to do.
Close your eyes. Just contemplate existence. For
everybody clap if you believe. So 3, 2, 1. Okay, some silence. Okay, done with silence. And my goal with this is to teach people proper podcasting etiquette. Or it would be funny if I accidentally taught someone proper podcasting etiquette. If you end up doing a podcast, but if you end up doing a podcast and you sync with a clap and you do some rune tone, please send us an email at podcast@engadget.com. That would be funny to hear. Let's talk about Bungie.
Okay. Okay. Let's move on to our first big story this week. Out of nowhere, we learned that Sony is buying Bungie, the developer behind Destiny 2, the original developer behind Halo, for $3.6 billion. And joining us to talk about this news is Jessica Condit, senior editor at Engadget. Hey, Jess, how's it going?
Hello. Happy to be here once again with acquisition news. Yeah, you said it was out of nowhere, but like, this is it, dude. We got to get used to just big deals happening over and over. Yeah.
This is what's happening. It does feel like this is a direct response to the last time you were on, when Microsoft announced that they were buying Activision Blizzard for a lot more. What? $69 billion?
Yeah.
So
nice.
This deal,
how could you forget that number, man?
How could you forget it? I think in the grand landscape of things, normally this deal, we'd be like, whoa, man, look at how much money Sony's paying for Bungie. Like, look how big this deal is. But in comparison to that Activision Blizzard deal, it really pales in comparison. So Jess, like, what were your thoughts first hearing about this? Because I'm sure this wasn't like a direct response to Activision Blizzard.
Right.
A deal like this takes a while to kind of get moving. But what are your feelings about this, and what does this mean for the gaming landscape?
Right. So you're absolutely correct. If this had happened before the Activision news, this would have been a much bigger deal. Like, it would have been, oh, wow, okay, now we're really building up to something. Instead, the Activision deal was like, okay, we're here. And now this makes sense in a world where large studios are buying large studios. So this deal was probably in the works for about 6 months before it actually landed. So in terms of it being a response to Activision, that's not really the case. This is just what's happening, and these deals are happening behind the scenes. SIE president, so Sony president, Jim Ryan, he said that there are definitely more acquisitions in Sony's future. They're working on deals now. We know the other studios like Microsoft, they're definitely doing that too. So yeah, I mean, just keep expecting these kinds of genre shifting, platform shifting deals to keep happening. But in terms of Bungie being owned by Sony, it's shocking. Like, that was a shocking deal. Because Bungie is the Microsoft studio. Bungie is the arbiter of Halo. Like, this is the Halo studio. Well, it was once upon a time, right? But like, for 10 years, basically, they were the Halo studio. They did the original Halo. So that's a cornerstone of Xbox. They were Xbox for years, and then they split. They cut a deal with Activision to publish Destiny for a while. They cut that deal short, actually. Yeah, it's not funny.
That was originally a 10-year deal for Destiny, and so I guess Destiny 1 sales will still, which may still happen or something, but that would go through Activision, which means it would be going through Microsoft eventually for Destiny 1. Weird. Okay.
I don't even know how the like royalties are going to shake out for all this stuff. But absolutely. So now Microsoft is going to own Activision. So it's going to be Microsoft and Activision, two former Bungie publishers under one roof. And then Bungie is now at Sony, the rival company. Obviously, it's a very different world than it was when Halo Combat Evolved came out. And there are a lot of studios that used to be tied with Microsoft that are now at Sony and vice versa, right? Like the industry has shifted. But this is a pretty big one. Bungie at Sony is, kind of nuts. If you had told high school me this news, I don't know if I could compute it. Yeah.
There's a lot. The gaming world has changed since we were in high school, I guess, too. It's like when I was in high school, that was Dreamcast era, PlayStation 1 era, and it was like Microsoft came to consoles? No way. But now they're a significant player. What does this mean for Sony, Jess? Because I feel like Bungie does not make the kind of games Sony studios typically do, right? Like they're more into the big budget single player stuff like Uncharted and Last of Us, and what Bungie is bringing is a live service game like Destiny 2. I guess that's something entirely new for Sony, so I could see the appeal there.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly why they bought Bungie. So Sony is looking to beef up their live online like games as a service platform. They want to build more of these immersive living experiences like Destiny, and Bungie knows how to do that. So this is really kind of a collaboration from that angle. Sony's going to learn a lot from Bungie. They're going to get access to this kind of infrastructure that Bungie has in terms of supporting live games, huge live games. And then Bungie is also talking about not just doing games. They're going to use this deal to push into other forms of multimedia, which, I assume streaming TV, film, just like, Halo's getting a show. Why not one of Bungie's platforms? Why not, or one of Bungie's franchises? They only have Destiny right now. So there's going to be some new stuff coming down the line. But that'll be years and years down the line.
Also, it seems like, wasn't the news around Destiny 2, that was supposed to be like a 10-year game, right? And you know what's weird? We're getting to the end of that 10-year game cycle, to come to think of it, which is wild for me to even consider right now. Like
that sounds nice.
We're approaching year 8. We're old.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
If I didn't know about this, can I pretend not to be old?
You're not old. Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, you're fine and young, surely. But it's like, every time we talk about the history of games, I'm like, oh man, I was there for this. I remember this. This is that was too long ago. Do you think, Jess, I think Bungie fills a hole for Sony. I'm more wondering, Trillin, I think you'd call yourself a casual gamer, so maybe I don't know if like the intricacies of this are interesting to you, but would you be more interested in a game, like would you be more interested in buying a PlayStation if you could buy a cool game that's like a living experience rather than just a single player title or something?
Fun fact, one of my friends used to work for Bungie on Destiny. She wrote for Destiny. So that's for that reason I was always casually, more than casually interested in Destiny and Bungie. She left to join a different indie game developer now, so I'm like, you could have been owned by Sony, but no. I am more curious. She's happier that way. But I'm very curious. So for me, after this news broke, I was like, oh great, like it's big news, I thought, in the gaming industry. I have a question for you, Jess, but before I get to that, I was like looking at Reddit, and I think it was in Our Data is Beautiful and Our Gaming, someone posted this pie chart looking thing made up of logos of all the different brands in gaming and all different studios and who owns what. And you look at like Microsoft's slice of the pie, you've got T2's slice of the pie, you've got Tencent with the different things. Is this overall consolidation and like the continued acquisition of studios by these bigger conglomerate brands like a good thing, Jess, for consumers, or like is it something to worry about?
Well, that's the question. So when the Activision Microsoft deal went live, I wrote not the news post about it, I wrote the, the follow-up, the hot take. I put some context around it. And my conclusion was that this level of consolidation is bad for the industry. Just saying it's bad for developers and bad for consumers in terms of homogenization and in terms of just getting rid of this ability to cut deals that are good for the game. And instead, they're going to be focused on huge platform holders and what's good for them. So I don't know. There's a whole world of, along with this consolidation effort that's truly happening, truly ramping up right now. There's also this era of streaming that we're entering. That's what Microsoft is trying to build. That's what Sony is trying to get in on the ground floor of, because they need something. So there's a lot happening. There's a lot of change. The industry is going to be completely different. I want to talk to more developers about what they're feeling about these deals, how they're going to navigate these things. So that's actually, I'm working on a little bit of that right now. So hopefully we'll have a better answer in a week or so. But
introduce you to my friend.
Please. Yes, absolutely. Actually, yes. So yeah, it's hard to say, but it's definitely a new world for gaming. Yeah, it is.
It is. It's a little disappointing too, because I feel like Bungie was reveling in their freedom a little. Like once they got out of the Activision publishing deal too, it was like 2018, 2019. Like they were purely on their own, doing their own destiny, like in control of their destiny.
Were they in control?
Yeah.
Damn it,
and now
before I could.
Yep, too slow. But now they're back under the thumb of a big corporation. Is this good news, bad news for Destiny in general? Like, I wonder if like Sony was just like, hey, you have complete creative freedom. We just want to like be able to tap into you guys whenever possible. Is this a good thing for Bungie or a bad thing? Yeah, it's hard to tell.
Honestly, like, so I just threw out the line like, go indie, stay indie. Yeah, I kind of stand by that, but I don't think that signing to a larger company with money and support, that doesn't make you a sellout. It doesn't mean that it's a terrible idea for every studio. Sometimes that's how you grow. Sometimes that's how you find new audiences. That's okay. In terms of Bungie being at Sony, so far, it seems from the early interviews coming out after this deal, it seems that Bungie is going to have complete creative freedom. They're going to keep building for cross-platform experiences. They're not going to just stick with Sony consoles. They're positioning it as only a good thing for the studio. But Bungie has a history of signing deals and regretting it. Yep. Truly. They do. Like there have been cheers in the
they're very non-committal. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I think they sign a deal that sounds good, and then you realize what it actually means. And hopefully they've done enough homework at this time that this deal is actually, going to help them do whatever the hell they want to do. Because I do think there are some really talented people at Bungie. They've done some amazing things with Destiny. It was not a guaranteed hit. This studio could have been gone. The Halo studio could have been gone,
Destiny 1 was rough. Like at the beginning, it took them a while to figure out like what they wanted to do. I feel like, Destiny, it didn't really click until Destiny 2. So that's a whole other thing for them.
I have a couple of questions from our live chat right now, Jess, that I think are directed to you. Bryant Mitchell asked, could that break up Bungie into smaller teams to work on more games? And then for both of you, Dev and Jess, there's a question about, could any of these big companies buy Nintendo?
No.
So actually, Nintendo will be fight this tooth and nail. Yeah.
One of our coworkers actually asked me that in Slack the other day. They were like, "Yo, like, is Nintendo gonna get bought?" And they were comparing Nintendo to Sega, and I was like, "No, wrong comparison. No. Nintendo is huge. Nintendo is doing its own thing. Nintendo is pretty untouchable. Like, truly, I wouldn't worry about them." And what was the previous question?
Would Sony break up Bungie into smaller teams to work on different games?
No, not necessarily. They're actually hiring. They got a lot of money. They have a lot of support. They're hiring. So, yeah, sure, they're going to have some reorganization, I bet. I bet they are already working on games past Destiny. Like there's already stuff happening.
A roadmap,
they're clearly doing this. Yeah,
like, so for the love of God, Bungie, make a single-player game. Just make a single-player game again. Let's go backwards a little. But yeah.
Well, they're at Sony now. Why not?
Yeah.
Maybe they will. Yeah, absolutely.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Got some questions too from our producer Ben, which I think is worth talking about here too. Like, is this consolidation a bad thing for developer labor unions? Because I know we've been following that, and like the state of unionization in the industry. Is this worse or better?
Yes. Mm-hmm. This is one of the reasons I think that consolidation is not great in the long run. I think it will explode, and we'll kind of go back to where we were again at some point. But so Activision Blizzard, there's a studio that works on Call of Duty.
Call of Duty. Oh!
It's a Call of Duty studio.
The Susu studio for Call of Duty.
So Raven Software, they are under Activision. They work on Call of Duty Warfare. Wow, I can't stop saying Call of Duty. They are trying to unionize, though. There are some QA testers at Raven trying to unionize, and they are actually, like, they have enough votes. They have a super majority of votes. Activision has been getting in their way every step of this process.
Yeah.
And Activision, just as they announced they have the votes to form a union, Activision failed to voluntarily recognize them, which means they have to go through the NLRB, and that can take years to get recognized this way. And Activision has split up the QA testers at Raven Software, like just days after this announcement. They're like, oh, just happen to be reorganizing now. And so that dilutes their power. And they're also calling for all of Raven Software to vote on the union, not just QA organizers. And they're also posting messages in Slack channels, in company Slack channels. The VP of QA at Raven posted a very anti-unionization message, just completely undermining any efforts there. They're clear, these large companies don't want unions. And organization is something that is a hot topic in gaming right now because there are no unions at major studios. There are a few indie studios that are getting into unionization and giving their employees a measure of control over the work-life balance they have, over what their skills are worth, all this stuff. But this doesn't exist in the large-scale gaming industry. So it's a big deal. And Activision is doing everything it can to stop it. And I guess that includes Microsoft as well now too. So,
yeah. Any further?
Note.
It's so depressing. Like, you were bringing up the idea, like, would anybody buy Nintendo? I feel like if that ever happened, like if Nintendo reached a point where they were being bought by a big company, or like they were desperate enough to be bought, I kind of feel like video games would be over, right? Like this video game industry just kind of gone. That would be another like big like the big death of video games, like in the early 80s, right? So I hope we never get to that point, folks. Like anybody positing about Nintendo being bought or sold or whatever, like that would be bad news. I think that would have ripple effects throughout the entire industry. So I hope we never get to see that. But hey, we've got some other studios floating around, Jess. So like people have been talking about, like, okay, so what I'm sure Sega's out there like, hey, Microsoft, you'll spend $69 billion to buy Activision. We're here. We're a bargain. We have all these properties. Like, would you think that would be a better fit for Sony or Microsoft? Like, are there other studios you think these companies would be more into? Capcom is like another one people have been talking about for a while.
That would be amazing. That makes sense at Sony. I'm just thinking, like, will Nintendo go on a buying spree? I haven't really thought about.
That would be the cool surprise.
Think, maybe that's where Sega
Nintendo buys Sega.
Yeah,
right, there you go.
That would make a lot of sense. Oh my god,
that would make sense.
Even I know that.
Make so much sense. Yeah, you do, right? See, there you go. Okay, we make this deal. We better get like commission on this deal.
Yeah, make that deal. In terms of like characters and like platformers and stuff that would like work together, like you give us like a true Sonic Mario game, like that would be. What if the next Sonic adventure was a Mario adventure? You know, a Sonic and Mario adventure. Sonic riding Yoshi, dogs and cats living together.
I would actually hate that, but it makes sense for them.
Sonic
I think one of our
Yoshi go
producers
Sonic. Go ahead.
Threw up the name Kojita Studio or Studios. Is that something you're familiar with?
Kojima.
Are you talking Kojima?
All I say, I'm seeing Kojita.
Kojima.
Okay.
Kojima.
So Julio meant Kojima. Okay.
Well, I mean, he is a pretty good relationship with Sony.
I think Sony would be like, yeah, dude, like whatever it takes. Did people buy Death Stranding? That was a success.
Yes,
even though
they just released
a.
It's a fine game. It's just a bad movie. Kojima, make a game, please.
To me, it's like overall bad experience. But yeah, it's definitely. More
I liked it. That's fine. Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, I think we solved the Nintendo Sega problem. I kept wondering, like, would Microsoft end up buying Sega, which would be this weird full circle thing, because Microsoft made the operating system for Dreamcast. They made Windows CE, which powered Sega's last console. Windows CE arguably helped kill the Dreamcast because it was so hackable. So people cracked that OS pretty quickly and were like copying games and like doing easy imports and stuff. Then, like, didn't the head of Sega of America went over to Microsoft? Basically, a lot of people have argued the Xbox 360 is basically the Dreamcast too. Like, it seems like after a certain point, helping to kill Sega, Microsoft should just be like, hey, here's a bone. We'll buy your IP. Yeah.
No, that would be funny. Yeah. No, and it's funny, like Mike Ibarra, if we're going to go to like cross contamination, Mike Ibarra used to be at Microsoft, went to Activision, now he's back at Microsoft. It's like you can't run away from these big companies, and that's going to be the thread that, like, in the next decade of gaming, I feel like it's going to be cross contamination. Yeah.
I hear you. All right. Thank you so much, Jess. Where can people find you on the internet these days?
I'm on Twitter, Jess Condit. Yeah. And then on Instagram at Jess L. Condit. Thanks, guys.
All right. You want to stick around for Q&A, Jess, or are we wrapping?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. I know you're sick. Sorry.
I saw one comment from a user that actually doesn't even have a username. I didn't know that was possible in the chat, but they said, what about Sony buying Square Enix?
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a total sense.
Yeah. I mean, if anyone, it would be surprising if Microsoft did. That would be
that would be. And I think Microsoft has always had trouble with Japanese studios. Like Japan just doesn't take Microsoft seriously. So, yeah.
Sun coming in.
You got sun coming. Just in time for it not to blow you out entirely, Jess. So perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
Just my
forehead. So behind you and above, is that a skylight? Kind of in the like.
Right? That's why I have so many plants. Yeah.
Gonzalo Costa asked, Jess, do you have a Wii U?
I used to. I have a bunch of Wii U games still. I just saw them in my closet. So
I should plug in my Wii U. That controller is still like such a bonkers thing. I look at that and I'm like, Nintendo, you crazy. Why are you doing this?
I also saw like someone in the chat saying, like, would Japan even allow Nintendo to be purchased? I think like the subtext there is that it's so important to their national identity that it's not possible.
I mean,
which
things
is
can
funny,
happen.
at
Like
least.
Sony was like the big part of Japan's national identity too, but now essentially Sony leadership is in Europe, right?
Yeah.
Like I think that's the way it basically works now as a company. So I don't know, things can change in all sorts of ways.
So the original comment asking about any kind of Nintendo acquisition was by Armando Fernandez, who said, would love to see Apple buy Nintendo. That just makes...
They have the money.
Yes,
that's the scary...
They are one of the few companies on Earth that do have the money.
Yeah, Chris Reardon said a little bit before that too, floating out the names like, could Sony, Microsoft, or even Google outright buy Nintendo? And then I think Armando followed up with
Google.
Apple
do not touch any of these companies.
We don't want any of these. Yeah.
Well,
Apple would also be pretty scary because it's true. That is what we're entering. I mean, look at remember Stadia. Everybody, this massive
it's still
thing
sort of still existing.
They're still supporting it.
Change the world.
Yeah, they're still working on it, and then I'm sure we'll see something eventually about it giving up.
I could see Apple being like, so they have more money than they know what to do with. I could see Apple like just positioning a Nintendo deal or something, and then like Apple is a big enough brand in Japan where like I don't think people would have as much of a problem with that. So Yeah,
that's the scary part. Now these mega companies like Microsoft is one of them. That's why they can do this stuff. Yeah.
I wanted to pass on a nice comment, Jess. Wes Jackson in the chat says, "Hey Jess, love your video game coverage. Thanks for all the great content that you do for Engadget."
Wow. Thanks, man.
Thanks, honey. And also thanks to Wes.
Woo, thanks, Wes.
I remember Jess's review of Battlefield 2042 was all I ever needed to see, and then her point of view was just borne out by literally everyone else in.
That's how it goes.
Yeah, but you got into the fact that it was also pretty bad politics too. Like on top of being a bad game, it just has very strange, confusing politics.
As usual, I don't know why all the war games are trying to squeeze stories in there. That's not what people want out of these games. That's all. That's all.
That's all. I think we're good. I think we can wrap.
I think we're pretty much done. So
go for it, Sherlyn, whenever you're ready.
Yep.
Okay.
Hang in there. Okay. Well, that's it for the episode this week, everyone. Thank you as always for listening. Our theme music is by game composer Dale North. Our outro music is by our very own Terrence O'Brien. This podcast is produced by Ben Elman. You can find Devindra online at
Devindra on Twitter, and at the Filmcast Podcast at thefilmcast.com.
If you want to send me your favorite awful disaster movies, I'm on Twitter at Sherlyn Lowe. Email us your thoughts at podcast@engadget.com. Leave us a review, please, on iTunes, and subscribe on anything that gets podcasts.
Nice.
That is a very deep joke.
I just kind of feel like we don't need to keep mentioning that.
We don't need to. It's fine. It's fine.
The silence was so loud.
Yeah. Julio's asking, are you going to review Dying Light 2, Jess? Do any of us care about Dying Light 2? No.
I'm not.
That game's too big.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to say I'm playing Horizon right now. I can say I'm playing it. Reviews are out on Valentine's Day, so that's all I can say.
I need to finish the first game. I feel like that is my goal right now because I have not done that. But yeah, thank you all for joining us.
Just dive in.
Yeah.
Yes. We're so happy for the regulars. Do you name Charlie? We're glad Mark Dell was back. Nice to see all of you here.
Congratulations on the promotion.
Hells yeah.
You'll have to listen to us in audio like everybody else. Yeah.
Definitely. Wherever you get your podcasts.
I hope you're downloading the episodes. Please do.
All of you in chat, subscribe and download.
If you watched the chat right now, when the episode comes out later today / early tomorrow, depending on where you're living,
just subscribe now.
Yeah, just subscribe. Like, set it to auto download. If you are a regular in watching, just be a regular downloader. It helps us with the numbers. It's silly, but it matters. So this stream.
Last two quick shouts to Jonathan Anderson as well as Albert Aiden, who were there, I think, with us from the start this morning. So there you go.
And hello to at least my new favorite chat commenter, new favorite chat name, your wife's boyfriend.
Thanks to Michael Coley as well. They say they always download the app after. So
yeah,
awesome.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, so this stream comes to you via our video team, which is led by Brian O, with Julio Barrientos and Luke Brooks. If there's a change that you saw there, yeah, it's true. Brian O is looking after Engadget Video. You probably saw his name on lots of video reviews and like kind of video editorials that Engadget does. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, we can talk about that later.
Okay, so yes, Julio Barrientos, Luke Brooks. It's powered by everyone in the chat. Thanks for sticking around this long. If you've stuck around this long, download the show, rate us 5 stars on iTunes. We live in a world of algorithms. It helps more than you think, and we'll see you next week.
Absolutely. See ya.